Alright, what is up, guys? This is Fire by Night, and this is actually probably the first time you've ever seen me because it's the first time I've ever shown my face. Who would have thunk it? The first time you show your face is the first time people see you. But anyway, that's not important. So, as some of you may know, some of you may not know, the gaming industry as a whole is sorely in need of a good dinosaur-themed video game. You've got stuff like ARK, which is, in my opinion, a pretty bad first-person shooter with dinosaurs, but none of those really quite fit the bill of what, in my opinion, a dinosaur game should be. So let me introduce to you ARK Survival Evolved. Now, this is an open-world survival game, kind of like The Forest, or what's that one game called? It's like Deep Sea or Stranded Deep. There we go. That's what it's called, where you're on an island, you have to survive. The idea behind this game is, based off of what the trailer showed, is you're planted on an island with nothing, and essentially you're surviving on one of your wrists. So like, let's say right like here, there's a pretty big circle there, and it looks like a tracking chip is what it looks like to me. And I guess you're just surviving, so you can faction off and play with friends or not play with friends. But anyway, for those of you who are interested in the game, there's not a whole lot of easy to find information. So what I did is I have a page up in front of me that has a lot of like Q&A type stuff on it. So instead of, you know, maybe linking people to it and making them read it themselves, or even saying just screw it, go find it yourself, what I'm going to do is I'm going to find all the stuff that I think is really relevant to the overall experience of the game and how it's going to play, and I'm just going to go ahead and share that with you guys. There's not going to be any real order to this because I'm just going to kind of talk about it as I go down the list, and they didn't list it in order. So let's go ahead and get started. The first thing is someone asked them, will the game have a cap to the FPS? And they were very pleased to say no. So if you have a $3,500 gaming computer, you could run this game at 250 frames per second. If you've got a mid-range to low-range computer, you might only be at 25. There is no cap, so whatever your computer can handle, that's what you're going to play it. Now, a big one for me is this next one, and it has to deal with microtransactions and pay-to-win features. Oh my goodness, guys, don't even get me started on this. I will actually refuse to buy a game if it has pay-to-win in it. I don't play any free-to-play games because the whole idea is to spend $400 on in-game currency to, do whatever you got to do. In this, and I'm going to quote them directly, it says, there will never ever be any monetization of this game whatsoever other than possible entirely new expansion arcs. Arcs are the worlds. So essentially what they're saying is, yes, there may be paid DLC for new maps, but, and again, quoting here, there will never be any pay items, not even cosmetics. There will be tons of cosmetic item skins, but they will be earnable in-game rewards and time-limited free events to encourage gameplay. Nothing ever to spend money on. Guys, this is huge. The fact that we don't have to spend $4 for a hat, like, that's awesome. And the fact that they're saying, even again, to be clear, we at Studio Wildcard are very much against any in-game monetization whatsoever. We've seen it distort so many otherwise good games. Guys, this is a developer that finally gets it. Like, they get it. Don't try to nickel and dime all your customers out of all of their money. All the respect in the world. I have so much respect for them here. So let's go and find some more stuff here. Let's see. The game is going to support multiple languages at release, so if for whatever reason, or if you're overseas and English isn't your primary language, you're also going to have French, German, Italian, and Spanish at release. And I don't know if they're referring to the early access release on June 2nd or the full release, which they are estimating to be at some point next year. They think they want to put it in early access for about a year, so that would put sometime in June of 2016 for full release. It's not too bad. Which just brings up another point. Normally I would tell people don't buy early access games, but this is kind of a special case because this developer, Studio Wildcard, they've actually already signed deals with PlayStation and Microsoft to release the game on those consoles. So that gives me a little bit more comfort and a little bit more of a sense of stability with this game title, that they will actually complete it since they've already signed contracts and have already, set up platforms other than PC early access. That's a pretty significant reassurance, at least in my opinion. Another good thing is the game is going to support controllers, so you can use your Xbox controllers to play this game. For some people that's huge, some people it doesn't make any difference, but just know that you can play this with pretty much whatever way feels comfortable for you. It's also going to support that Project Morpheus, the VR, which is kind of cool. They said, you know, be aware you could have a severe fear of heights when you're flying a pterodactyl. Take that for what it is. There will be more information later on in this video about that. But that's awesome. I mean, the fact that they're like developing and they are investing into what they see as the future of gaming, it's just cool to see developers do that. I love it when these small developers who aren't quite known yet are willing to take risks, because they're what launches gaming industry into like the next level. Okay, so game costs. They have already said that they're not entirely sure what the game is going to cost at full release. They have announced that early access is going to be cheaper than whatever the full release is going to be, whenever that's going to be. There's no set date for consoles, so that could be in January, it could be in August, it could be in June of next year. We don't know. But it says here that the game's cost will be $25 and the console cost is still to be determined. Now, this is kind of weird the way they word it, because they don't say the early access cost will be $25. They say the game cost is $25, and then they specify that the console cost is still to be determined. So I'm kind of wondering if $25 is what they want the full cost to be at the game's full release date for Steam, and then they could potentially have a different cost on console afterwards, which would put early access cheaper than that. Or if they're saying that early access is going to be $25 and they don't know what the price after early access is going to be, and then even then console cost might be different than PC cost. This is very confusing to me. I'm hoping obviously that the $25 is going to be the full release PC price, but we will find out. Even at $25 with the amount of content this game is going to supply, that is a pretty good deal. I mean, they're saying there's going to be hours, hundreds of hours of gameplay before you even get to the end. Okay, so for those of you that are going to be in early access, you're going to play this game in the beginning of June. They are saying that there's not going to be a very well developed tutorial in the game, but there is going to be a basic one. So at the very least, you're going to learn the basics of the controls and, you know, how things work, but you might not get that in depth. You know, if you want to craft this and if you want to bed, you need to do this and this and this and this and this. It's probably going to be more basic. There's probably going to be a wiki, I'm sure, that will be up right away that's going to have all that information for anyone that wants to look at it, but we might need to wait a week or two for that. Now here's a big one. Will you guys support streamers and YouTubers when the game is released? And their answer is, of course. We'd welcome any and all YouTube videos and streams you want to make of the game. Anything you want to do, have at it. It's really cool, again, to see developers that are listening to their customers and are trying to encourage that. For whatever reason, a lot of developers want to take money from people, want a piece of the pie, when in reality we are, you know, kind of advertising your game for you and we're not charging you to advertise it. So I've never really understood that train of thought for people, but it's really cool to know that they're not going to participate in that. That's actually really exciting, and it's really relieving as well. Now, for people on PC, when you're in early access, you will need to be updating the game a couple times a week. They're saying that they want to update the game like every other day, almost every 2 or 3 days. So a lot of updating. It's going to be moving forward very quickly. A lot of support, which is really cool. Again, knowing that they have plans to really support this game. Okay, so here's something that's kind of interesting. So when they start you out in the game, if you've seen the trailer, by the way, if you haven't, there's going to be a link to the trailer. I might have it playing in the background. I'm not sure. I might just have pictures. It really depends on what I'm allowed to do. But like I was saying in the beginning, you have that thing that's right here that is kind of a piece of metal that I think is a tracking chip. It might be something different. But it shows that there's some kind of technology that is in the world. Whether you have access to it right away or not is, you know, up to you. Or not up to you, up to them, I guess. But here they do say that there is going to be some kind of sci-fi integration into the game. They call it a sci-fi tier, which I'm guessing is going to be closer to the end game. And they even say it's going to be more prevalent towards the end game. And they're not going to reveal a whole lot about that, but just know that you're going to start out very basic. I mean, your character doesn't even have clothes on. You're literally walking around in underwear. Or if you're a girl, you've got a bra on as well, thankfully. But as you progress, you will be able to develop technology. Again, they haven't really released much information about that yet, but just know that this game is going to, it's almost going to be like, what's that game, like Sid Meier's Civilization, where you start out very basic and you build your armies and you grow into times and you get more and more high tech. It sounds like that's the general idea here. It's going to be implemented very, very differently. But it's also kind of cool that since there's like a technology progression, it also implies, and they will later state in here, that there is at the very least a loose story involved, which is kind of cool. So you're not just like Minecraft where you're just kind of building and exploring. You actually have a goal, which is pretty cool. Let's see, they talk about the game optimization. So this is kind of important, especially if you've got more of a mid-range computer. The specifications that they have listed on Steam is 4 GB of RAM and at least 1 GB of video RAM, and I believe a dual-core processor, an Intel Core Duo is what they're saying they're supporting, or I guess in this case, in this time, that would be an i3, which is and they're saying like 2.5 gigahertz. So you really don't need a beefy computer. I mean, they recommend that you have at least a $100 graphics card. I don't know where they got that price from though, because I mean, I have a pretty cheap graphics card, but my graphics card is 2 gigs of DDR3 RAM, and that's actually under $100. So you shouldn't really need to have a very beefy computer to play this game. It doesn't look like you're going to need a lot. Now to play it at max settings, you're going to need more, but you'll be able to lower, you know, the detail and, you know, like shadows, that kind of stuff. And hopefully, you know, even if you don't have a top of the line super hardcore computer, you're going to be able to play it and still enjoy it. Okay, so if you do get early access and you are going to jump on this right away, they said there's going to be an in-client bug reporting feature. So it is my personal opinion that if you're going to buy a game in early access, it is your responsibility to help refine the game, and that is through reporting them. So they're going to make it super easy. You pause the game, it looks like, and you can report straight from the Steam overlay. And, you know, they actually thank Valve for that. So, I mean, please, if you're going to get this game, be involved in the development. If you see bugs, report it. That's what early access is for. And for a game like this that has the potential to be as good as it does, we need to do our part to help make sure that they get there and that we encourage them to, you know, keep moving until they hit that full release. Okay, so we are going to have voice chat. You can do global-wide, like global worldwide voice chat, where you're anywhere in the game world, not real world, or localized chat. So you can set it up so you can only hear people that are within a certain distance of you. There will also be character customization, so you can customize skin color, eye color, hair color, and then body and face proportions. He says that there's about 30 different sliders, so that sounds like a pretty in-depth customization. And then you can also change your character name. It doesn't have to be your Steam profile name, which is pretty cool, because my Steam name personally is really old, and the name I use now is a different one, so that's kind of exciting. There's not a whole lot of interaction with the environment. You can't hear someone asked if you can climb trees and build on them, like tree houses. They said no, but they also said that's a really good idea, and they're going to look into implementing some kind of thing like that. Now, with that being said, you can build tall buildings and use a ladder to get to the top of them and build them around trees and kind of simulate that. It's just not going to be like part of the tree. And I would imagine that would kind of go towards other environments too, like you can't dig into a cave and use that. Here's a big one. So think back to games like Stranded Deep, for instance. I've never played it personally, but I've watched 2 different people's perspectives of the game. And in that game, I have seen crabs, I have seen a stingray, I've seen 2 different sharks, and about 4 or 5 different textures for minnows. So, I mean, roughly, let's just say 10, okay? 10 animals. I might be wrong. I haven't played the game, so I haven't explored all the way. There might be a lot more, but that's all that I have seen. As of right now, before the game is even released in early access, there's over 30 unique animals. And then they said that by full release, they want to implement over 70. So there could be, you know, 150 for all we know. I mean, that's what early access is for. They want us to get feedback. If we come up with ideas, we can send it to them, and if they like it, they'll implement it. But it's kind of crazy to see how in-depth that goes. And from what I understand, most of those dinosaurs are going to be tameable. And not only that, but they're not only doing dinosaurs. Remember, it's called ARK Survival Evolved. It's not called Dinosaur Survival or Dinosaur Island or whatever.